Welcome to Best Wellness Interviews, where successful people share their attitudes on wellness and some key strategies that they use for their health and well-being. I'm Kristine Best, and I'm a wellness strategist, and I'm your host. And today, my guest is Heather Stewart from Ontario in Canada. Welcome to my show, Heather.
Thanks. Thanks, Christine. It's so awesome to connect. I love the way the internet works, that we can be on different sides of the world and still
It's
have a
fantastic.
conversation, right?
Yeah. That's the good side of technology. The other side
Yes.
is when it's frustratingly,
Yeah,
ornery and it doesn't work how you want it to.
right.
So what I'd love you to do is to introduce yourself, who you are and what you do.
Sure. So I am Heather Stewart. Yes, you mentioned that. I am a real life coach. And I call myself a real life coach because I feel like a lot of people are searching for something for themselves to help themselves be happier, be healthier, be more of what they dream about being. But it has to fit into their real life, because if it doesn't fit into their real life, it's like those people who say, I'm going to join the gym January 1st and go to the gym every day, and it doesn't fit their real life, so they don't do it. So I like to help my clients. We collaborate to come up with solutions that fit their real life and start shifting their real life to what they want. And yeah, so we can get into how all this happened, but that's my jam these days. Very passionate about helping get people unstuck.
Well, it's very rewarding when you see people have made progress from what you've shared with them.
Right? Yeah. I'm thinking there's one lady in particular who I've been working with for a couple of years who has come so far from where she started. I'm always so lit up by these people and how much progress you can make when you have someone in your corner that believes in you, right? I'm sure you've had that experience
Absolutely.
as well, right?
I wouldn't be
Yeah.
where I am without the people, helping me behind the scenes, basically. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Uh, well, it gives you a warm, fuzzy feeling when you see someone blossoming into what they can be,
Right?
you know?
And the
And
fact that you got to help them a little bit,
yeah, it's great. So
right?
how did you get into that? Tell us a little bit of the background.
So I'll try to make it not, an epic story, but my first career, I was a chartered accountant. So I was in finance in the corporate world, and I was a senior director. So I had staff, and I had at that point checked all the boxes you're supposed to check, had my career, had a big job, had the company car, the stocks, all these things that say that you made it as a professional. And I was really not happy. I mean,
You were
I was
unfulfilled, maybe?
I it could that could be a good word for it. I just felt like I was wasting my life
Yeah.
sitting 12 hours a day in front of a computer screen, which, yeah, I can sit here and sit for 12 hours and count dollars and give them to other people. And, you know, I was an information funnel of dollars in and dollars out. But I felt like that's not what my life is meant for. And I was a really brief story. I was in a meeting, and I was in a very male dominated industry. And I was the youngest person in the room, although I was still, an adult. You know, I was a professional, and I was the only woman in the room. And they were having a conversation about there were some small competitors who are like mom and pop type competitors to this billion-dollar corporation. And they were trying to have a discussion about how to drive these people out of business because they felt like they were stealing business from them. And I used my outside voice and I said, why can't you just leave them the hell alone? And everybody turned and looked at me, and I thought, oh, I shouldn't have said that out loud.
Oops.
But but that was how I felt. I felt like you people have enough. let's just
Yeah.
help some of these people be successful. And you don't need to take things away from other people to make yourself more successful. So that was at the beginning of my turning point. So I
Mm.
I started to notice more and more, and I started to practice yoga after work, more for stress relief. But what it was doing was giving me this realization of, you're in the wrong spot. It's taking a lot of your life away from you. The money's not worth your life. So I hit
And
a point
it went against your values.
right? It did go against my values. And the funny thing was, you mentioned it earlier, was it a midlife crisis? My friends thought I was having a midlife crisis because I had
Yeah.
quit my job. Like, I just said, I'm done. I
Mm.
didn't have a plan at that time,
How old were you
so
then?
I had worked 15 years, so I was in my mid-30s.
Okay, well, not
It's
quite
not
midlife, but
that's not even close to midlife. I had been an accountant for 15 years. So let's say, later 30s, just for the sake of argument. And they thought she's crazy. She's absolutely crazy. She's quit her job, and I was getting divorced, and I was
oh,
selling my house.
oh,
So, and I always tell people, just because I was unhappy and I chucked it all out, that doesn't mean that's the right decision for you. but but that worked for me at the time. And I went traveling. And because I had been studying yoga, I said, I'm going to go over to India. So I traveled around in India. And while I was there and I had some quiet time and some space, when I came back, I started teaching yoga. I opened my own yoga studio. I went back to school for 2 years to become a registered massage therapist. I became a personal trainer. So I went from corporate accounting to wellness because I said, people need help to be well. I can do this. And I was always super interested in it anyway. So I went full into the wellness space. And then dun, 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 in 2021, I mean, I still teach yoga and I teach a yoga tai chi fusion, which I love teaching. And I still have some personal training clients that I see, but um, I retired from I did massage for 14 years and I loved doing it. But in 2021, so mid COVID, I had a stroke and I was in the hospital. And because of COVID, no one could visit me. Because of COVID, there was no rooms in the hospital. So I spent 3 days in the emergency room alone, no visitors. And my vision was affected. So I couldn't do what people do, to go onto the phone, to read, to do anything. I just had to sit there.
that
So
was
for
tough.
yeah, but I'll tell you, it was a gift, because 3 days of silence gives you that gift of your brain has time to work things out. And luckily they had painkillers because the headache was horrendous. But while I was doing the massage therapy, I had started business coaching a little bit, just to massage therapists, mostly because they didn't understand how to run business. And that was something that was my previous career. I'm like, I can help you. But when I was in the hospital, I realized I was playing too small. And maybe you've encountered this, like, you can do so much more than you're currently doing. So my practice just exploded from there. And I realized business coaching was too narrow and I was hiding from something still. So I realized I could see how people needed help with so much more. I mean, I had been doing this little dabbling in their health, physical health, and now in their business health. I'm like, but what about their their occupations? What about their passions? What about their community around them that they surround themselves with? So I said, okay, as I laid there quietly and couldn't write anything down, I see this vision of, I work with eight. I think your wellness has 8 components to it that you help
That's
people
my,
with.
yes, I have an 8D approach to
Yeah.
wellness.
So
Yeah.
I have a six tiered approach.
Yeah.
So that all, I just all came into my head. And while I was, so that came in, and my podcast I had been doing a business podcast, but it said no. My brain said no. Now it's a wellness podcast and it's called Back to Me. And it was all because I was lying there and I thought, people who find themselves in circumstances where you have a choice, you can give up and just let life do everything for you. Like just
Happen
don't,
to
yeah,
you.
that happened to you.
Yeah.
Or you can take what's coming and say, what am I going to do with this? So my podcast has people coming on who are saying, if this is happening to you, here's some things for you. And you're coming on my podcast. So I'm excited to hear
Yeah.
what we're going to talk about for you. But it was just like all of this fed in all of my background that's going from corporate to the wellness space. I could see all these pieces and how they fit together for someone's life, and how when something's out of balance, it throws everything else off. If you if you sit 12 hours a day, of course you're going to be crabby when you go home because you're
Yes.
tired and you haven't
Yes.
been moving your body. And of course, if you um, are in an abusive relationship, or it doesn't even have to be abusive, in an unhappy job life where you don't feel valued, of course it's going to affect your emotional health. So I just saw all these pieces coming together.
So was
And
this in the hospital when you were thinking all this stuff?
yes, this is all in the hospital.
Wow.
So when I came out of the hospital, I said, I am a real life coach. I'm going to help people with their real lives to get. We always have fantasies about winning lotteries and going and living on a mountain, but I want to stay in reality, because reality isn't something to run away from. It's something to create the way you want it to be,
You know,
you
that's
know?
an interesting point because people want to live in the past or the future, and they have
Yeah.
a depression or anxiety about that. So
Right.
it's about being in the now, in the moment.
Yeah. Which is a
And
very yogi thing.
yeah, there was another thing you said about being, uh, or, there's a pause that you have to go through, and it's in those moments of, I think you called it silence or something. And
Yeah.
a song popped into my head. Silence is golden, and it is, and it really is. And in our life, everything's so busy these days. Everyone's rushing around doing this and doing that. And women in particular, they've got not just themselves, they're probably working in a job, but they've also got the kids, and then they've got the husband and the house. And
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 they might
that's,
have their parents too, depending on
well,
how old they
quite,
are,
they could
right?
quite often, yes. So women are under considerable pressure, and they forget about themselves.
Yes.
And
I
that's what
saw a I
you're
saw
hinting at,
a
I see.
study. Yeah, I saw a study at one point where they asked people to rank in order of importance. And generally it was like the children were first, then their husband, then their pets, sometimes their job, and then them.
Mm.
So if you're always last, how can you have the capacity to help to look after these things that are important to you? Because if you're always last, you're always depleted,
And how can you be
right?
happy under those
And how can you be
circumstances?
happy?
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Like there's, and you can say, oh, my children make me happy. But at the same time, yes, they can make you happy, but they should not be more important than you. Because if
Mhm.
something happens to you, who's going to look after them? And I
Exactly.
spoke with a woman quite a while ago now, I think it was a couple of years ago, who her point was something along the lines of, if I'm putting everyone else above my needs, I'm demonstrating to my children first that they don't have to value me as much as I value them. And I'm also teaching them that they should put everybody else above them as well. So when they
Yes.
have
Mm.
when they become an adult, they'll have that same pattern of
That's
putting
kind of
everyone else above them.
setting up an inferiority kind of complex, really,
Right?
that you're not as
Yes.
good as you should be. And
Right.
so people say, no wonder people say, I'm not good enough. I can't do
Yeah.
that, right? Because they're not taught to look within. They're not taught to look after themselves first. And
Right.
that's not a selfish thing. That's a smart thing.
Right.
Because if you
Well, we
don't look
do think
after
it's
yourself,
selfish. Like, look, you just had to say it's not a selfish thing because so often we do think it's a thing to say,
well,
I'm taking care of me.
people do have that misconception. But
Yeah.
it's wise to take time for yourself, to look after yourself, to give yourself self-care
Right.
because you
And it's
matter.
and it's
Everybody
interesting, like
matters.
everybody knows on an airplane that you put your mask on first
Yes.
so you don't pass out, so you can
Mm,
help the people who can't.
mm,
But we don't translate that into life.
mm.
It's like,
Yeah.
put your mask on first so you don't pass out, so you can help the people around you.
I've written a song about that exact concept, and it's called Everybody Wants a Piece of Me. And the
That
concept
should be a
is,
bestseller.
it will be when I've professionally recorded it. Yeah, yeah. Because the concepts in the song are everybody wants a piece of me, but there's only so much to go round. And there are different lines in there like, I know I can't do it all myself, so someone else will have to help, and I'll stand my ground. And then it's like, I need my space and time to think so I can face everything, and you need that. So there's some
Yeah,
really key lines in that, and people will be able to identify with those lyrics because this
definitely. That could
world
be like,
keeps us busy.
and you wonder sometimes why the world's trying to keep us so busy, but that's a whole other podcast.
Yeah, yeah.
But if you, and it's not because we don't have enough time, it's because we don't prioritize properly, right?
And you
So
can't
people will,
manage time. You
no,
actually have to utilize time. That
and you
is
can't
key.
save time.
Not
Time is
really,
one
no.
thing you can't save. Um, so I used to do this webinar where I talked about proper prioritization. So, you know, people when they're sometimes I would ask them what was the most valuable thing to them. And often people will say their health. And I will say, but what are you putting as your number one priority? And it will be something entirely different. And it's like, so anxiety and worry and stress is maybe coming out because you're misaligning what you say is important and what you're prioritizing first.
What you're actually doing, what your actions
Yeah,
show.
because your actions will tell you what you're actually prioritizing
That's right.
versus what you internally tell yourself or tell other people. And
Mm.
that misalignment, you may not be consciously looking at it, but there's a part of you that knows, you can't fool yourself, right?
Well, you can only feel yourself for so long, then something will happen
Yeah.
to make you sit
There's
on your
there's a
butt.
part of you there's a part of you that knows. It's just not the part you're letting speak. And I read a book at one point called Do Less, Be More.
Mm.
And it was talking about the science of the brain because you were talking about that quiet space. And it was talking about the problem solving part of your brain is not creative. The problem solving part of your brain is thinking, thinking, doing, thinking, doing, thinking, doing, thinking, doing. But to make synergies or to come up with like ideas that it's like will impact each other, your brain needs to be creative and have
And need
space,
space.
right? Which
Exactly.
is why people come up with ideas in the shower because you're not doing
Yeah.
anything.
Yeah.
So you'd have to create shower brain space
Or in
outside of the
nature,
shower.
nature or something. Nature
Yeah,
can be quite watching a sunset or
right.
something like that.
Where you
Mm.
don't have to be taking a picture of it. You don't have to be talking about it. You don't have to be writing about it. You can just sit and appreciate. Then your brain will become creative and ideas will pop into your head. So you're a songwriter, like you must have that time where you give yourself
Absolutely.
brain that room, right?
Have to have that space. If I'm busy all the time, I can't be creative. I need space and I need no stress and pressure. So have to take time out to go for walks in nature. And I love sunsets. I've even written a song about sunsets and how inspirational they are. So yes, everybody should find something that resonates with them that they can do where they have no cell phone with them. They have no interruptions. They
Right.
have total space and time, just themselves watching the leaves fall or walking along the beach, feeling the sand in their toes and wading through the water and just grounding themselves basically
And
in
don't
the
worry, you're
moment.
not, yeah, like people have this fear that if they take this time, that they won't get things done or things will fall behind or things will fall apart. But if you just give yourself that permission, it doesn't have to be tons of time,
No,
right?
20 to
It can,
30 minutes is all
yeah,
people need for that
right.
time out.
But I remember I have this client, the one that has come so far, and we incorporated into her weeks a she chose a half a day. She wanted a half a day where she didn't have anything specific. And she said she took the first time she took a half a day off, she said she came back and she was so energized when she came back. And we don't recognize that our bodies have these cycles. They need we think sleep will do it. You need more than just sleep.
You do?
Right?
Yes.
You do need sleep, but you need more than just sleep. We have these cycles we need on, off, on, off. And the 8-hour workday was an invention. Like that's not actually how long people are generally productive for. It was
No.
an invention by the union, the creation of unions, that they just needed to figure out how to split up the day. So they said, okay, 8 hours of sleeping, 8 hours of work, and 8 hours you can have for yourself. But really, people are really only productive like 4 hours, 4 to 5 hours in general.
Well, actually, the span of a person's concentration is usually 40 minutes.
If that.
So, and then you have a little lapse and you'll, and then you get back to work and you have another 40
Yeah,
minutes or something. But yes, it is in cycles. And that's why when I'm helping people, I tell them to take regular breaks when they're sitting for long periods of time. They need to get up and move their lower limbs so that they don't get
yeah,
circulatory problems. But that
right.
also sends nutrients around your body to the brain in particular, where it gets oxygen and glucose. It does that it gets sluggish when you just sit all the time. Your body needs movement just as much as it needs food, air, and water. It
Yes,
needs
definitely.
movement. Yeah. People don't
We
realize that.
no, we were built as a moving body,
Yep.
and it's only in the last, what, 100 years or something that we've really become so sedentary. And one of the things that this is from my yoga background. If you've
Mm.
been sitting too much, have you heard of legs up the wall pose?
But what, sorry?
I call it legs up the wall pose. You lie on
Oh,
your
yeah.
back
Yeah.
with your legs up the wall.
Hmm.
This is where you can
Yep.
take your 5-10 minute break because because I had been taking yoga when I was working still as an accountant. When I was really tired, but I still needed to push through, I would take 10 minutes and lie on the floor, shut the door. Don't, I'm in an office with my legs up the wall. And
Mm.
it's, it does like, it's a faster way to kind of get that circulation out of your legs and get everything moving, but
Yes.
it just refreshes you.
Yeah.
And
True.
I mean, your legs, because your heart has to pump everything around your body, your legs are pretty far away. Your feet are pretty far away. So your calf muscles are pumps for the
They are.
circulation for
Exactly.
your lower body. So if you don't walk or move, then
Lymph
that's
and
why your
blood pool.
lymph and blood, yeah,
Yeah. They
that's why
pool in the
you've
lower
got to,
limb. Mm.
that's why you got to move, my friends. What did
Absolutely.
I heard someone would say one day that sitting was this new smoking. Right.
Right.
Yeah. So
People don't realize these simple remedies that they can do.
they want a fancy pants remedy. They want some pill to take
Magic
or
pill. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
right.
or some magic food.
Doesn't
Just tell me
exist.
this magic drink to drink, tell me this magic, what's it called? Bulletproof. I'm going to
Ah.
drink bulletproof and I'll be bulletproof. No, you won't. You still got to move your body.
Exactly. Just some simple things that they can incorporate into their daily life. Yeah.
And for my clients who really, because I'm a big lover of meditation, or and walking in the woods is a meditation,
Mm-hmm.
watching a sunset is a meditation. For my
Yep.
clients who have a resistance to that um, word, I say, well, take 10 minutes for me and just daydream.
Yep.
That, just look at the window and daydream for 10 minutes a day. That'll be fine. Just to give their brains a little rest.
I've written a song about daydreaming too. And
Oh my gosh.
yeah, the words are, it's not just a daydream when I dream throughout the day. Because it goes on to say that I'm dreaming of a future, and I'm dreaming of how I'm going to get there, right?
Right.
So that's the gist of that song, and that today is a day to live and shine. And yeah, they're the sort of words that are in it. And it's not a waste of time. People say to you, what are you dreaming of? You're not working, but hang on a second, I'm dreaming of how the business concept is going to do such and such. So that's your creative time. And then you got that
Right.
space, that moment. And daydreaming is creativity in a lot of cases.
But we always got in trouble for it in school,
Yeah, yeah, or at work. Yeah, that's right. But
Yeah.
it can be quite productive. But it can also be that you're dreaming of a goal that you've got, and that's going to fuel you to do a good job in your work because you want to
Right.
go on this particular holiday. So daydreaming is a way of us going, yeah, that's something I'd love to do, or this thing could work, and you're tossing around ideas in your mind, and it's a creative and innovative space.
And because people can't see it, an external output from it
Mm,
until poof, you've got it.
mm.
Like they can't see the processes or we value so much external output of
We want the
something.
proof. Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
So my process right now is, I'm doing that and you'll see the proof later. But being okay with knowing that first of all, you don't have to prove anything to anybody, but stepping back from that needing that external validation of
Mm.
showing people this is what I'm doing, this is how I'm doing it.
And
They
if you've
don't
got
need that.
No, and if you've got someone standing behind you, breathing down your neck, saying, "What are you doing?" that actually shuts off their creativity.
It does entirely. You can't get anything done when someone's doing that.
It just
I
shrivels up.
Yeah, I had a boss like that once.
Yeah,
Right?
yes, I've had one like that too. I won't tell you that story. I did something pretty naughty. I was
That's
young
for your secret podcast.
I was young and impulsive, and yeah.
You can always set up the secret podcast for the true tales of Kristine Best.
Yeah, well, I got a few
Invite
secrets.
only.
Yeah. Well, that's a really fascinating story that we've just been listening to. And you created that. You had a blank space when you were in hospital, and
Mhm.
you were filling it in as you were laying there. And I think that's pretty courageous because a lot of people would be sitting there going, oh, look at this situation. And, I had a good life and what have I done? And, they're thinking of woe is me, and they're focusing on
Yeah,
all the negatives. Whereas what
yeah.
you did was, hang on a minute, what can I do to change this? And I love that because that takes courage to face, well, okay, here I am, this is what it is, but I'm going to get better. And you're focusing on the positives already, and you are looking at how you can utilize the knowledge that you've had, the experience that you had, and that you realized well, I wasn't happy, and I'm sure there are millions of other people out there who are not happy. How can I
Right.
help them to get on with a better life? And you were putting it all together as you were laying
Yes.
incapacitated in hospital. And
Yes.
that's awesome. That's pretty powerful stuff.
And it's so, and it, yeah, it's funny when somebody says it that way. I'm like, wow, you're right. I was just laying there incapacitated, letting all of this stuff come to me. And one of the thoughts I had at the time was because when I first got there, I was arguing with the doctor. It's like, I haven't had a stroke. I'm healthy. I don't know what you're talking about.
Uh,
And then it didn't take very long for me to go, okay, stop being so silly. You're in the hospital. They know what they're doing. I'm like, okay, I've had a stroke, but that doesn't mean to you what it means to me. Because, people will have this, oh, this is going to happen to you and this is going to happen. I'm like, that is not what's happening to me. What's happening to me is I'm letting you look after me while I get to work to make sure that I am 100% again. And that at the same time, I realized there's going to be people who this happens to where they're going to be in that position of, oh my gosh, this is happening and this is happening and the world is falling apart. So my thought was, how do I get people before they get to this position where
mm,
they're okay if something happens to them? If they hit that bump, they can go, I've got this. I know what to do, instead of, oh no, my life is falling apart.
mm.
So that was part of like that impetus, because I had already done all the things that I teach other people to do. I'm not perfect, but I had done so much work to get my life to where I hit that huge bump and I went, it's okay. I got this. I still have the ability to manage it, had the community around me to support me. I had everything in place. And I said, and my job wasn't going to, you know, crash and burn just because I couldn't work. I
Mm.
was fine. So I know when a lot of people, when something happens, it's more than just their health that's infected. It's their whole being, sense of control, sense of everything.
Well, the
This is
thought,
a way, right?
like, yeah, go on. Sorry, you
This is
finished.
a way for you to say, this part has got some problems right now, but I'm still okay.
Yeah.
I've got it all figured out.
The thought processes actually can change the chemical balance because it affects their hormones, right? And
Right?
if you've got cortisol flowing around through your system and you're stressed, there's adrenaline and all that, that is not meant to be there for long periods of time. It is to get
No.
you out of immediate danger and then it should just dissipate. But people live in constant stressful situations and that will um, deteriorate your health. And
Yes.
people don't realize that it's your thought patterns can actually change that. And then you have to take
Yeah.
action to pull yourself back
Every,
from that
and
situation.
and there's so many things that can help. Like people say, how can I change my thoughts? And an easy hack is you can change your breathing, because your breathing will change your chemical balance too, which will help you change your
True.
thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
Like you can even just change your body position. I did this experiment one day where a woman told me to stand with my hands on my hips like a superhero and my feet planted. And, you know,
Changes your entire
when you stand,
feeling.
yeah. And she said,
That's
stand like that
akimbo.
for 5 minutes.
That's standing akimbo.
Is it?
Yeah. Hands
Okay.
on your hips, feet slightly apart, standing up tall. That is
Like,
standing akimbo. That you have power. You've just increased your size. You
yeah,
but standing up straight also aligns all of the nervous system through your spine and people sit hunched all the time and that's
I
really
know.
detrimental to energy flow, and it's not only that, it's also bad for the muscles in your back, neck and shoulders and so
Yeah.
on. But you're
But
squashing
it
up
was
all of your
your
intestines and your lungs. It's not conducive to your body working at its best. And if you don't feel at your best, well, that affects your mind.
right.
And then your thoughts are,
Yeah.
I don't feel good. Things are not really good in my
So then
life.
you slouch more.
Yeah, exactly. It's like yeah, a
But it was
gradual
interesting
down the
because
plug hole.
she just said stand like that for 5 minutes. So I did.
Mm,
And you think at the time, this is silly. Well, I was trying not to think that, but I thought, how can this do anything? But by the time because she was teaching people how to be speakers on stage. She said, you want to have exciting presence on stage, stand like that for 5 minutes before you go out on stage. So I stood like that and I was like, wow. I
Makes a
mean,
difference.
it's a huge difference.
Mm,
So like we're fully integrated, wired together, your body, your breathing, your brain, all of your everything. So, and we think that we're ruled by this thing up here. So people say, how can I change my thoughts? And they just stay all hunched over. Just stand up. And
that's
that'll
a
change your
start.
thoughts right there. Yeah,
Yeah.
that'll start
It's,
you off anyway.
yeah, thoughts are basically patterns that you've used for that. Well, they're thinking patterns and you use them all the time, but you can open your neural pathways in your brain by doing different things, doing like learning,
Hmm.
yeah, just experimenting with different way of doing something that
Right?
will open up new pathways and different ways of thinking about things. Look at it from a different perspective. So it makes you think in a different way. And so you
Stand
can
on your head.
change. Yeah. I used to do that when I did yoga all those years ago. I used to stand on my head for
Right?
5 minutes or so. Yeah, it was fun and it felt really good. All the
Right?
blood
All
went
that
to
blood to your
my
brain.
brain. Yeah.
Yeah. So we have many ways we can help ourselves, but we have to take an action.
Yeah. Well, that's first step is always the hardest, right? And
Yeah.
because it is the
Yeah.
hardest, a lot of people don't take it. But if you can just be brave enough to take one step in the direction you want to go, that's all
I
you
heard
need to
another
do.
coach say it only takes 10 seconds of courage. So
Mm,
that 10 seconds is like maybe dialing the phone or maybe pressing send on an email.
yeah.
That 10 seconds of courage, and then you're off
Yeah.
because you
That
said,
empowers you. You empower
yeah,
yourself.
yeah, exactly. Empowering is a good thing. I mean, people need to take responsibility for their lives.
Hmm.
If you want to be happy, you've got to do that for you,
Yeah.
right?
And if life is happening to you, there is something you need to do to change that so that life happens for you, right?
Yes. Yes, definitely. So good. That's your mic drop right there.
But but that doesn't happen automatically. It requires action and it requires that thought process of taking space and looking at your situation, being honest with yourself, I guess, really, isn't it?
Yes.
I need help,
Without
right?
judgment.
Without judgment,
Y-
yeah. And
y-
coaches, good coaches never judge.
If
It's
you feel
all about
judged, you have the wrong
the
person
wrong
helping you.
person. Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because the coach isn't there to judge you or have an opinion on whether what you're doing is right or not. The coach is there to help you see for yourself and to ask you the questions to help you have that internal process, right? Where you can understand what works for you, what doesn't work for you when you get stuck. Helping you. I always tell my clients, I can help you figure out what to do for yourself, but I can't do your push-ups for you. You got to do them yourself.
Yeah.
So
It's
hold you
like,
accountable,
mm,
you know.
yeah, it's like finding the way out of the maze. The coach can see the way out of the maze. It's just the person is confused about, what they're doing, why they're there. They're frustrated, and you're not thinking at your best at that point. You're not. You don't
Yeah.
have clarity of thought, and
Yeah.
all you need is a little guidance, and that's what a coach does. Just doesn't tell you what to. Coach doesn't tell you what to do, but leads you to connect the dots yourself, and that's why coaching is powerful, right?
And it's that person who will talk to you about all your crazy ideas and sometimes help you sift through them. Like I've had some clients who have had too many ideas and they want to do them all at once. So it's,
Not
you know,
possible. Yeah.
yeah, I think they're all amazing. Let's figure out where to start and, you know, find a way to create the space that you can get to all of them eventually if you want, or you might change your mind along the way. You know, who knows, right?
Yeah.
But I see it as the impartial ear, the person who will cheer you on, and someone to help keep you accountable to yourself,
Yeah.
you know, and that's
That's
valuable right there.
absolutely. And having an honesty with yourself. And because there's usually not just negative thoughts, but negative beliefs that go along with that. And you've got to sort through those as well, right?
Definitely. Yes, definitely. Because the person who you listen to the most is the one inside your head.
Yeah, that's
And they're
exactly
not
right.
always telling you the truth.
I've written a song about that one as well.
Oh my goodness. How many songs have you
If
written?
you knew how powerful your words could possibly be, you'd never say and never do anything negatively.
Right?
So your words, you speak to yourself how many thousands of times a day?
Right.
And if they're all negative, it makes you negative.
And you believe it because there's
Mhm.
no one there telling you that it's not true.
Yeah.
I was talking to a client recently who was asking me how to get over something. And I said, well, stop telling yourself that story. Said you are just an accumulation of the stories that you tell yourself about yourself. So if you want that episode to be different, tell a different story. So we worked on it a little bit to figure out what his story was better written as, but
I interviewed somebody yesterday who said, you have a blank page in front of you. What are you going to write on it? You
right.
can fill that page in how you want. You can rewrite that story, or you can write a new chapter in your story.
Yeah,
And you
exactly.
have the power. You have the power to do it. You just have to believe that you can do it.
And if once you start writing your own story and you realize that you can make that, then it becomes easier. Like in the beginning, anything new in the beginning, it's like, am I doing this right? Am I doing this right?
Mm-hmm.
But as you start doing it and you start to see successes and you start to see changes, then that's where either some people run back the old way because they're scared of the power they found, or they run forward the new way because they're like, yeah, this is amazing.
Mm.
And this is another area where coaches come in, they catch you as you're running backwards. No, 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 it's okay. Don't
Yes.
run back. Don't
Embrace
run
this.
back.
No, embrace this new change. Yeah.
Yeah. For some people, being successful is as scary as failing.
Absolutely. A lot of people are afraid of this, scary new territory. And I just had this picture of you going, come back here.
I'm standing at the door. No, don't go. Stay here.
Grab him by the scruff of the neck and say, yeah, get
Yeah.
back in.
You're tough love coach with love, but there's love in there.
Yeah, that's
Tough
right.
love, tough love.
Yeah. I like that. So now I've got a question. Tell
Yeah.
me a little bit about, your nutritional intake. Do you pay attention to that?
Oh my gosh, yes. Because you have to. Um, I can remember when I first started learning about nutrition, because most people, they learn what they know from their parents or their grandparents or wherever they grew up.
Yeah.
And it wasn't necessarily 100% accurate, or it may not be 100% accurate anymore. I remember one day I heard that spinach, when I grew up, spinach was full of iron. It was so healthy for you.
Yeah,
And
look
I'm
at
not saying,
Popeye.
yeah, exactly. And I'm not saying it's not healthy for you, by the way, but I am saying that the way it's grown now, it doesn't have the same nutrient density as it used to,
And when
you
they
know?
first started to promote spinach, they'd put the decimal point in the wrong place or something. And it's not
Right.
quite as good
Not
as they say.
quite.
However, leafy greens, I have to admit, are very good for you. Any leafy
Yes.
greens. Mm.
Yes. There's good for you, and there's making sure that you have enough of what's good for you. So like I use, I don't know if you've heard of AG1. I actually have only
AG1.
started trying it 6 months ago. So I will try nutrients. It's a green drink.
Okay.
So I found, oh, I actually feel really good when I do that. And I remember one day I heard it was actually a yoga teacher who said, you can figure out your nutrients. All you have to do is if you eat something and say, I feel good when I eat that, you can eat some more of that. If you eat something and say, I don't feel good, then don't eat that. But people have stopped paying attention to their bodies.
Mm-hmm.
So I've noticed sometimes like if there's I don't know if you have caramel bars. It's like caramel wrapped in chocolate.
Oh, we have those.
If
Yeah, we call them caramello or something like that.
Yeah, if I have one of those, I get such like this foggy headache thing. And I started noticing that, and I don't eat it very much, which is maybe why I noticed. I thought, okay, well, I'm not going to eat that anymore. Or
Mm.
if you eat something and you have a pain in your stomach and you think, oh, that's just this or this or this. Well, we have this idea that we're supposed to live with aches and pains. So
Mm-mm.
my nutrition I watch because I know how much it impacts my physical body. 20 odd years ago, I was running marathons and I was training one summer and I wasn't breathing very well. And I went to the doctor and they said, oh, you have asthma, use this puffer.
Mm.
And I said, but I don't want to. So I went somewhere else to figure out and have a conversation with a naturopath to find out why I had asthma now.
Mm.
Because I was in my 30s. I was like, why do I have asthma now? I haven't had this before. So he did all this testing and he said, well, and it was like that cortisol thing, and the capacity thing. Your system has been dealing with some things that you're sensitive to, but now you've filled it up to the top and it's overflowing. So now your body can't handle these things anymore at this time because it's trying to deal with the stress of your corporate job and you're running and you're not sleeping enough and you're piling all these things in that aren't very good for you. And then you've got these things you're allergic to. So your body's like, I can't take it. I can't take it. I'm not dealing with these. So I
Mm-hmm.
had to, so I ended up, I cut out dairy and I cut out, well, it was mostly dairy was the biggest thing. And when I cut out dairy, I didn't have to have the puffer anymore.
Diet can play a very big part, but it's also postural. And
Yep.
because when I was 10, I had been suffering from asthma as a kid.
Hmm.
And at 10, I came across an article about breathing. And in it were deep breathing exercises and things about posture and stuff like that. And
Right.
I learned to breathe properly and I did all the deep breathing exercises and I've never had asthma again. So I healed myself
Right.
from asthma.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I
So
mean,
it's
mine was inflammation in the lung tissue. So
mm,
a little bit of inflammation, but more the dairy causes extra mucus in your lungs. So
mm,
once I cut out the dairy and my body didn't have to deal with that and started to pay more attention to my sleep. And he started to clean up my diet for me.
sure.
Um, then the inflammation went down and the mucus went down and I started to feel better because I was taking better care of myself, even though I was still working too much, still
Yeah.
sitting too much. But that was like the beginning, way, way back, the beginning of that. Oh, if I take care of myself and I feel better, that's
Mm.
good. So I'll do more of that
So that was
instead
the
of
birth
saying,
of your
oh, yeah,
the birth of
instead of
your
that,
coaching.
the
Mm.
thing that people say is, oh, I hear all the time, well, I'm getting old. This is supposed to have hurt. No,
No,
it's
it's
not.
not.
No, it's not.
I
It
mean,
doesn't have to hurt.
I'm 70 and I can still do like I can run, I can jump, I can do whatever I want. And I don't have those aches and pains. And
Right.
I mean, if I do a bit too much exercise, I might get achy legs, but I got to stretch them. So
Yeah.
that's pretty normal. But I'm saying just because you're 50 or 60 doesn't mean to say you have to have these things. And a lot of people have the warning signs early. and they
Way
push them
early.
way out of the back of their mind and ignore it instead of doing something about it. And then it
Yes.
becomes a major problem later on. So, if there is a warning sign, you need to do something. And it could be something simple as posture, or it could be diet, or it could be, I don't know, it could be anything, but you've got to find
And a
out what it
warning
is.
sign, some people are afraid of warning signs because they think they're going to find out the worst possible thing ever. You know, oh, I have this pain. I have cancer. I'm going to die. No, not necessarily.
Not
It's like,
necessarily.
don't put your head there, first of all,
Hmm.
but go find out. Like, I remember I had a client once who she had carpal tunnel syndrome in her wrist, and she worked in an office. This was when I was a massage therapist. And she said, "I've been doing this job for 7 years. Why does it hurt now?" I said, "Well,
It's a build-up.
yeah." And I'm like, pretty sure you probably felt it before now, but
Absolutely.
you were just like, "Oh, I was ignoring it."
Hmm.
It's just a little stiff. It's like, it doesn't happen overnight.
No, it doesn't. Bad
No.
habits and behaviors can
Yes.
cause problems later on. And they
Yeah.
need to be dealt with now before they become a problem. And people
Right.
think, oh, I'm well, I don't need to go see anybody. But that's a big mistake. People need to take care of their wellness now, and then they'll end up where they want to be later.
Right. It's not because you don't want to be looking after illness. You want to look after your wellness.
Exactly.
So you do things to stay well and keep well and be well, and then you won't have to deal with illness, hopefully.
And most
Right?
people don't know everything there is to know about wellness. So they need to go find someone to teach
Yeah.
them
Yeah.
how to
Like,
put
I
balance.
know lots, but I don't know everything. Never. I could never
Oh,
know
well, nobody
everything.
knows everything.
Yeah.
We're all learning every single day. But then again,
Mm-hmm.
you have a lifetime of knowledge, and
Mm-hmm.
so do I. We
Yeah.
can pass that on to people because we know the consequences of certain behaviors and we know the benefits of other behaviors. So, because we've experienced it ourselves. So
Yes.
you're speaking from experience when you're helping your clients,
Oh,
right?
definitely. Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
I had to learn it myself to be able
We
to be
we
able to
all
get this far.
exactly. And I guarantee you've had people around you who've helped you get
Mm,
where you are now too, who've supported you
yes.
in some way or another, mentors
Yeah.
perhaps.
Mentors. I've now got my own coach. Well, I have for quite a number of years now, 6 or 7 years, because I said, coaching is amazing. I can help people. So why wouldn't I have a coach for myself too? You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yes.
So someone who's doing for them, for me, what I'm doing for them, it's so valuable. And I have mentors and I have accountability buddies to help me with specific projects. Yeah.
Awesome.
Anywhere, anything and anyone who I think supports my journey and supports me and supporting other people, I'm inviting all that love in,
Yeah.
right?
You're awesome.
You're awesome.
And you look well, and you're happy, and a nice relaxed style
Right?
about you. And I think that's great. And people need that because people are always on the go, doing this and doing that. And they need to just come back down.
That's back to me. That's why I called the podcast Back to Me,
Awesome.
because
Yeah, that's perfect.
it's like they have to recognize, come back to yourself, because if you can be there, you'll be okay. No matter what's going on, we can figure out a way to make things, you can figure out a way to be okay.
Mhm.
And the more you figure out how to be okay, the more okay things become.
Yeah, because people are trying to be everything to everybody because you don't want to disappoint people. You want to do things to help them and you neglect yourself. Whereas
Yeah.
what you're saying is, no, 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 no. Look after you first.
Yeah.
Then you'll be able to look after it. Well, not everybody.
Yeah.
There are times when
You
you
don't have to look
need to
after
say no.
everybody.
No.
Yeah. I met a coach who's in Australia. She's the Nope coach. And she teaches people how to say no.
No, that's right. Well, it's a protective thing. You have to protect yourself.
Yeah,
You can't
exactly.
do everything. There's only one of you, and there's only, as my song says, there's only so much to go round.
Exactly.
So you have to prioritize where you're going to put it, your time.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Mm.
enjoy it. Like,
Yeah, if you're not enjoying it and it's all becoming too much, sometimes it all becomes too much. I can't do it all, I know. That's but there are more words in my song. You have to come to this realization, and it is about finding that golden silence,
right.
because that's where you do your best work.
Mm-hmm. It is. And don't worry about what anybody thinks about it.
No. And I was going to ask you, is there anything that you do to, a bigger than you project?
Oh, bigger than me project. Yes, I
I
do
mean,
lots of,
not just your work, not just your
yeah.
work, but other stuff.
I'm also a painter.
Hmm.
So one of the things that I do is I belong to an art club, and I recognize that I could just show up and paint and sell paintings, but I know that I have the ability to help that club and the people in that club, because most of the people in that club are 15 to 20 years older than me. It's an older club. So I actually have been their treasurer for the past 9 years because I said I can help you. So whenever, but really my bigger than me projects are always when I see something and I think I can help you. And it doesn't matter whether it relates to my business or not. But and I recently, so I just retired actually this week from being the treasurer of that club because I said I recognized I can help over here. So now I'm going to be helping with the shows. And so, and this is something that it's funny that it was going through my head because what I'll say to my clients is it doesn't matter whether you think it's Hollywood worthy or not. People think that things in their lives need to be like big with sound effects and fireworks. But if you just help one person, that is a big thing. So I was having this thing in my head going, that's not very big, Heather, my
No, but it
inside
isn't, but
voice.
it's bigger than you.
But
Where
it is,
you're
it is
doing something
bigger.
for others, and you're
Yes.
giving back in a way that you could because you're drawing on your previous experience in
Right.
finance,
But
right?
it's even us will have those conversations with ourselves. So I just wanted to
Yes.
say, this is my bigger than me thing. And recognizing that there is part of me going, that's not very big, Heather. But I'm like,
It
yes, it
doesn't
is
have to be
big.
very big.
But it doesn't have to
But
be
it is
big.
big because
Yep.
you're doing something for others without payment. You know what I mean?
Yep.
You're actually donating your time and your expertise, your skills, to help
And this is how
others.
I became a coach. It was like, I
Okay.
can help you. This is how I became so many of the things that I do
Hmm.
because I could just see someone who needed something and I'd say, I can help you with that. And then somebody said one day, you should do this as a business. And I thought, oh, that's a good idea.
I can earn a living from this. Oh, yeah, that'll be
Wow,
good.
that's so amazing.
I can support myself. Yeah, doing what you love to do, helping
Mhm.
others, and you're getting paid for that. Wow, that's actually going to make them feel good, make you feel good. Wow.
Right?
And then you're giving back to this other group of people, with your bigger
Yeah.
than you project that is not so big, but hey, it is big because it's helping a whole group of people.
It's
And
pretty big to them, let me tell you.
well, it is because
Yeah.
they don't have too many people who can do those things or who want
Right?
to do those things. A lot of people
Yeah.
aren't prepared to give of themselves like that. So, how
Right.
does that make you feel? Because you've made them feel better, you've allowed that club to continue. And how does that make you feel?
Obviously, I feel fabulous. I
Exactly.
mean, every time I can step in and add value somewhere, which is what I ask all the time, it's like, where do you feel valued and um, that you are contributing to something bigger? And this is mine. It's like every time I come in, they're like, Heather, so we're so happy you're here. We're so happy you're helping us. Like the appreciation is huge. And you could
Hmm.
say, oh, that's your ego. I'm like, I don't care. It's
We're
like
allowed to, see, we're allowed to feel good that we've done
you're
something
allowed to
good.
feel good.
I'm
Yeah.
not boasting. I'm just feeling good in the moment because it's that warm, fuzzy feeling. And, I
And
think we're
that
entitled
helps.
to that. That
Like
helps your
just
wellness.
imagine there's 200 people in that club and that helps them contribute
Yeah.
what they want. Like maybe they're contributing beautiful art into the world, and this is how they can bring it out. And like it's all of the things that you do where you are helping something in some way, that ripples out
Well,
in
it
ways you
ripples out,
can't know.
but it makes other people feel good.
Hmm.
It helps take the stress off them because you're doing something that, they have to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
And legally, and you're doing it well. And the thing is, you get a buzz from that, and that actually sends the right hormones around your body and makes you feel good. So it's adding to your wellness,
Yeah.
right?
So
Your
that
mental
spirals
and
through my
physical.
own what that is spirals through
Yep,
my own wellness. So I have more
exactly.
capacity to do more. That's not too much though.
No,
Can't do everything.
but it's a give and take thing. And if you give good feelings, you get good feelings back, you know,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
that is good for everybody's wellness, mental and
Yes.
physical.
And then maybe that person will want to go out and do something first,
That's
right?
exactly right. Yeah. It's
We
like a
got to start the
smile.
tidal wave. Yeah.
It's like a smile, you smile at someone, they'll smile back. It's just kind of automatic. And when you're smiling, you can't frown. Like you can, you
Right.
know what I mean? It's catchy. And doing a good turn for somebody is catchy. Oh, the person did that good thing for me. It made me feel good. I could help this person. And it kind of makes you want to do stuff like that.
Right.
And
Yeah.
that's creating a good world.
Yes. That's my
And
plan.
I have a saying, I have my own little saying, be what you want the world to be.
Right.
You have to be that in
Yes.
order for your world to be what you want it to be.
Yeah. And it's true. Like if people say, oh, that's interesting, and they'll just take it on the surface, but let yourself think about that in all the ways that is true, because that's a very deep statement, right?
Hmm. Well, I've really enjoyed. I could talk for ages. We've talked about so many cool things,
I
that
know we have.
people who I'm sure people will get a lot out of what we've talked about. And I could go on, but hey, I'm going to say we'll finish up now, except if you've got something in particular you wish to say.
Trust that your life is supposed to be happy. And if you're not, go and find out why and
Hmm,
do something.
perfect. That's a good note to end on.
Hmm.
Thank you very, very much, Heather, for being on my show. I've thoroughly enjoyed interviewing you, and I'm
Thank
sure
you.
people are going to love this interview.
Thank you.
You have a great day, and everyone out there, I hope you all have a great day.